Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Edgar Palacios, and this is Watch That Movie, where I watch movies, I review them, and we have a one-sided discussion. I hope you enjoy what I have to say about movies because they are my passion and I love them so much. Today we'll be talking about F1, the new movie starring Brad Pitt, Kerry Condon, Damson Idris, and Javier Bardem, directed by Joseph Kosinski, the director of Top Gun Maverick, Tron Legacy. Um, in that one firefighter movie, I can't remember for the life of me, but he's and Oblivion. He also directed Oblivion. He's a very talented director, and most people who recognize the name will probably recognize him from Top Gun Maverick. He's a very big fan of aerial stunts and shots. He likes planes a lot, and now he's on the ground shooting Formula One race cars, and he's done it in a way so fantastic and so engaging and energetic in a way that you haven't seen before. Um, Before we get into that, let me just do a quick update on the channel and what I do here on the podcast and watching and reviewing movies. I did promise the last few times that I would be more consistent and more frequent with my output of videos. I did remember promising a review of The Materialists and I don't know if I had mentioned, but also The Life of Chuck, which I already seen. I do apologize. Uh, I will say that I haven't been able to fit it into my schedule, but I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. But I will make an effort to put out a video by the end of this week, hopefully. Probably a 3-in-1 or 2-in-1 movie review video slash episode containing The Life of Chuck and The Materialist, and maybe 28 years later. I know those two of those movies have been long in the past, and we're not really about movies that are already come and gone already. But I want to put out my input, and hopefully you guys if you're watching frequently, I really appreciate your support. But I also hope that whether a movie is really up to date, is trending or not, you enjoy and are here to you know evaluate my opinion and appreciate it. Uh, and I really can't thank you enough for the support that I've gotten, as little as it may seem. I appreciate it and value it like it's 1,000 likes or a million videos, a million views on YouTube or streams on Spotify, wherever it is, how many it is. I can't appreciate it enough. We're just getting started, and honestly, don't know what kind of a show slash channel this will be. Maybe it'll be small. I'm trying to make it as consistent as possible, as professional as possible. Um, so that means hopefully in the future, watching more movies, staying up to date, trying to get in as early as I can because I am making an effort to watch these movies as soon as possible. So you get them, soon enough to make an opinion to watch them in the future. Um, I am not in the press circle whatsoever. I am not in the huge content creator circle that gets early access to these screenings. I will only be able to get access to these screenings on early releases that they put out, like through AMC or Cinemark or wherever you get your movies. Sometimes they have early release screenings. I was able to get one for this movie for the F1, but amongst many other people. So it's not something super exclusive. I just made an effort to watch this early so I can have this video out as soon as possible. Um, Life of Chuck. I saw that movie earlier than most people because I saw it in a private in a not private but in a one of those Cinemark secret movie screenings where they don't tell you what the movie is going to be. They release it a week or so before the actual release. Um, that way, you can generate buzz, but surprise people. That video should have come out way long ago. And again, I really apologize. That should have been like oh wow, this movie I watched it a week before it releases. I should have made a video about it, but I just never got around to it. So all to say is I do apologize. I will make an effort to put these videos out, and just stick with me. And again, I really can't thank you enough for being here because I really like talking about movies. And if I figure out anyone, watches these in full length, then here's what I have to say. It will make my day. I will, I like talking about these things in real life with people, and it's fascinating to have conversations with this in real life, and engage with people about the things you love, and hearing their thoughts on the very same thing that that you're obsessed over. But enough of that. All is to say is that stay tuned. Hopefully, you might get those videos and those movies that I promised. Hopefully soon. You know, you know, uh, you know, don't count on it, but hopefully, if all goes well, that will come out. Regardless, I saw F1. I saw it Monday, the week it was supposed to come out. So if this video comes out, what is it, Thursday today? Um, I saw it the Monday of the actual release. So we saw it. I saw it in IMAX. I saw it with my friend in the theaters, and I knew that this was a movie that was meant to be seen in IMAX. Again, I say it a lot, especially in movies when it comes to IMAX, because I'm a huge fan of it, but also because it's very specific. Um, when not all films released in IMAX will be shot in IMAX, but uh, usually when it says filmed for IMAX or filmed in IMAX, I know one of those two isn't exactly the correct one, but usually when it's you know filmed in IMAX, that means that it was shot in IMAX cameras. I can't be 100% sure if that is the correct terminology used for the right true IMAX format. Um, because not all movies, are shot in IMAX. They don't have the big aspect ratio covering the full screen. Uh, Weapons is an example that you might see online. IMAX put out a trailer and it says experience the movie in IMAX, the new horror movie Weapons coming out in August. But some people might be surprised when they go in the theater when they realize that it's not covering the entire screen. It is being shown in IMAX and they want you to experience it in IMAX, but it will not have the IMAX aspect ratio. It will not cover the entire screen like you would think an IMAX movie would do. So you have to, just keep your eye out, ask questions online, look it up, saying, was this shot in IMAX? It'll probably tell you and summarize for you that whether a film or not is actually shot with IMAX cameras and will have that big screen that you'll be expecting to watch it in. F1 is shot in IMAX and it looks fantastic. Just jumping right into it. F1, uh, I had high expectations to this, knowing that it was directed by the director of Top Gun Maverick and the way he shot it. He wanted it to be very realistic, very grounded, as many realistic aerial shots with the actors actually in the cockpit. I assumed, and by the way this was marketed in the way that the director talked about this, is like, we're gonna do that but on the ground, make it as realistic as possible, put actors in the F1 racing cars or in very F2 racing cars, or as make it as realistic as possible. um and the way they did it is so fascinating. They talk about, instead of trying to rig cameras and mount them on existing F1 racing cars, which is really difficult, but there's only so much you can add onto it because they're really expensive cameras and they want to make them as small as possible, but they also want to have as many angles as possible. So what they did instead, they built an F2 racing car from the ground up, making sure that the car was built specifically so it can have so many cameras and move as accessibly as they wanted it to. I don't know exactly the specifics and logistics when it came to making that, but there's a video about it. Go check it out. It is really fascinating. I like seeing and hearing about how these movies are made. It also just shows the dedication that they're doing to make things as practical as possible without using and over relying on CGI, which is uh, earns a round of applause for me, and deserves a front row seat ticket to the movie. Not in the actual front row seat, but a good seat in the theater to watch this on opening day. And this really deserves it. I think this is if you want to compare it to Top Gun Maverick, I wouldn't. But in terms of practicality and how dynamic the shots are and how they use in real life racing, and filming that, I think this is neck and neck. This is pretty much competes with Top Gun in terms of realistic driving, how fast it is, how intense it is, and how engaging it is. I know F1 is a very, intense sports, and everything that goes behind it is really interesting. I just started watching the documentary series, Drive to Survive. Um, and this movie is going to do a lot of promotional stuff for the sport. I wouldn't be surprised if the next F1 racing has like a spike in viewership because of this movie, um, because it really does draw you into the world and like shows the nitty gritty and shows all the mechanics behind it, the people involved. When it comes to marketing, when it comes to the pit crew, when it comes to um, execs and the board and the managing and the coaching and the training behind it. It's all really interesting. Um, and I like it. I feel like a sports movie, and this is a sports movie. I feel like a sports movie does a good job when it makes you want to watch the actual sport. When it gets you a little bit invested. They did it with Moneyball. They did it with any baseball movie really that's like pretty decent. I want to say what's another. I'm like blanking on on a good sports movie. I don't know, Coach Carter. Any sports movie that's like decent in general, or is goes above and beyond, that gets you interested. I feel like that's a really great achievement. And that's what they're supposed to do. It's like basically an expensive commercial, but this movie goes beyond that. It's really, really good. I can't stress it enough to watch this on in IMAX. It's really intense, and if you can't do IMAX, I suggest Dolby theaters. They have uh, impeccable sound and really sharp images and color. Is probably my second recommendation if you can't watch it in IMAX. Um, you'll probably get a similar experience, but in terms of writing, I would say that this goes beat by beat by the book. You can get a sense of how this movie is going to end, and it does all the the cliches and the dynamics between the underdog team that's this close to failing and the old veteran that has a few things to teach the young rookie, and they need to work together and break the rules and figure out how to uh, make a DC level team to beat an A-list team, in this case racers like Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen. I don't know much about F1 racing, but I know those are actual F1 drivers. And surprisingly enough, Lewis Hamilton is a producer of this movie, which is really cool. So they're working hand in hand, side by side, by people who love this sport, and that's how they did a good job. They made it as realistic as possible, and this probably is really realistic. But this, the story in general might seem a bit predictable, but it's still really entertaining. The characters are really, uh, not funny, but they're charismatic. They feel lifelike, and I like the way they engage with each other on the screen. Brad Pitt does his Brad Pitt thing. He's a really good actor, and while he might play a bit of the same guy who's a bit cool, who's a bit really cool and hot headed, and doesn't play by the rules, he plays that character really really well. And Dan Samidris, who's famously known for his character in Snowfall, I have not seen that show, but I hear nothing but great things, and I'm really interested in watching anything he's in now. I'll probably go check that show too. But he plays Damson Idris plays Joshua Pierce, a rookie playing or racing for Apex GP, which is again a fictional sports team. You have some real teams like Red Bull. Uh, I'm not too familiar with all the exactly the sports. Like I know Red Bull has like several like racing teams. I could be wrong, but something like that. Either way, they're racing for a team called Apex GP, which is a fictitious company. So you have your rookie Idris, who's playing Joshua Pierce, and Brad Pitt, who's playing Sonny Hayes. Uh, Brad Pitt's character, Sonny Hayes, is a not retired, but he's a former F1 racing driver who, which is uh, cliche, does the cliche. He was once the best. He could have been the best, and then he was in an accident, and then left the game. And in between, then has been racing a little bit of everything. We find him racing for the Daytona 500, or an American sports league, uh, and he's doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and he has his basically he's a jack of all trades. He wants to cross every form of racing and every form of driving professionally off his list, trying to be the best and through everything. But then Javier Bardem comes in. He's like, I got a team. I need a driver. What do you say? and like I said, they play these characters. Brad Pitt plays this character really well. Damson Idris as Joshua Pierce plays this hot-headed guy, and usually I find characters that are so predictable and cliche to be either annoying or just played off and not that interesting. But they work. The chemistry between the two is really dynamic. It's really interesting. I really like them talking with each other. So what I want to say is that while the dialogue and the writing and the character arcs and the overall plot of the movie can be predictable and is something you have and is nothing special that you haven't seen in another movie like this, it is still very entertaining. I can't stress that enough. Um, because they're phenomenal actors, and they're written in a way that plays to their forte. So you're gonna get nothing but gold on the screen. And also Javier Bardem plays the owner, I believe the owner of Apex GP, the team. He plays his part pretty well. There's banter between him and Brad Pitt. They used to be racing colleagues when Brad Pitt's character was doing F1 racing in his younger years, but now Javier Bardem's character owns a team. Kelly Condon, who only I recognize, I think she voiced Friday, which is the AI voice in Spider-Man's suit from, and on that Friday. No, hold on, I'm mistaking it. I could be wrong. She voices an AI that Tony Stark gives Spider-Man, or that Tony Stark uses. Either one of the two. I could be wrong, but I recognize her voice. So oddly enough, I did recognize her in this movie. And she plays the she plays the technical mechanics. She's like builds the cards, builds the cars for the team, and she's really really good at a job. But she's also the love interest um, with against Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's interested in her, and they have a thing. But all the characters, there's not a wasted character. They all do their job pretty well. Um, that is to say, this movie can feel a bit long. It is a really long movie. It is 2 hours, and it clocks at 2 hours and 30 something minutes long. Uh, give or take 5 or 7 minutes for credits. Um, so, you know, in a way, there's not a moment wasted, but it is so much of it where, I can't really imagine what to take out. And I want to touch on this real quick before I move on to um, the technicalities of the movie in terms of talking about more the direction of the cinematography. Um, a big scandal, or at least the biggest scandal this movie uh, has, which isn't that big, but some people are put off by it and, and are talking about it, and I just want to give it a mention. Simone Ashley had a character in this movie. She's an actress. She had a character in this movie who was supposed to be a partner, or is supposed to be a character tied with Damson Idris' character, Joshua Pierce. I think she was supposed to play the love interest to him, but they essentially cut out her entire character. While that is unfortunate, and while it does happen a lot in movies in general, I don't know where they would have fit her. I mean, I know where they would have written her story. She could have been an emotional support character. She could have been giving more advice and wisdom and talk, and have to flesh out maybe a little bit more of Joshua Pierce the rookie. But this movie was already pretty stuffed so much to where you know, not that I understand, but I kind of find it, hard to like, what else can you put in this movie? Again, I know what her character might have been in service to in the movie in terms of the character, um, but That is something that people are talking about. Unfortunately, she was cut from it. It is a shame that that you can put so many hours into a movie and then all of a sudden your entire character is gone. Um, you know, but what I want, and basically what I have to say is that uh, uh, I am, that does really suck. And someone who wants to get into the industry, that would absolutely kill me. But I can't, lie that like the movie is already enough. Not saying that there's no room for her or in her character at all. But I was trying to figure out where in the movie, like, okay, where would her scenes be? And there are a few moments where like, okay, it felt like we're gonna go maybe a little bit more time with them, with Joshua Pierce in the movie, and then it kind of cuts off a bit. Not to say that Joshua Pierce as a character is, has a lot of uh, lacks writing or lacks depth. I feel like they write his character enough, but again, if you're looking for those gaps, you can kind of tell where they could have fit in her character in terms of the story. That is unfortunate, but it is the way the cookie crumbles. I remember there was a character in Dune Part Two. I can't remember his name, but if you know who I'm talking about and you know the character I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. There's a character in Dune Part Two. He was in the books, and he was supposed to be in. I got to look up his name. Hold on. Tim Blake Nelson is the name. I recognize him from Holes, and he was also in that Netflix Western movie. But basically, same thing happened to Tim Blake Nelson. He was supposed to play a character in Dune Part Two, and while it might not have been as involved and as long and have had as much screen time as Simone Ashley's character might have had, it was still a fairly noticeable character, and they essentially just cut the entire character out of the movie. The same thing happened to Stephen McKinley Henderson's character Thufir Hawat in Dune Part Two, where they were supposed to have, I think they were supposed to explain what happened to his character, and then they just he wasn't he was his character was just cut from the movie entirely, so he's not even in the second movie at all. These things happen. Not to excuse the shady things or the hard decisions that they had to do when editing the film, but who knows? All basically to sum up my summary, it is a long movie. I can't imagine, basically any more of a longer movie, and I would have noticed it, and that would have, lessened my enjoyment of it. Not to say that the movie was already long, and I found a problem with it, but it is what it is. Uh, this movie was directed, really, really well, and it was also shot really. It's just the way it moves. There's a lot of shots that might feel the same. It does the same panning between the front of the race car to the driver, but every time you see it, it really is cool. And one of my favorite shots, the entire beginning sequence just like has you on the edge of your seat, and it absolutely grips you and holds your attention the entire time. Um, it really is amazing. I love the way it's shot. It feels super sleek. It feels clean. I wish every single F1 racing uh, race was shot like it. Unfortunately, it isn't, but it is, absolutely insane. I mean, so hats off and props to the director and the DP and everyone who worked on it. There's so many scenes in the movie where I just go like where literally it's the Top Gun Maverick meme where it's like the guy's like, yes, the way it's shot, it's just so cool. But it also just pairs well with with the character dynamics and the plot uh, movement moving forward. You know, characters like, we got to do this, we got to do this, and then once certain characters do something, you're like, and then the way it's all shot, you're like, yes, this is why I love movies. When everything just comes together, it looks cool, it's written cool, it all works. So I really, really enjoy the way this movie looks. Um, you know, it looks sleek. It looks like and I want to say, I don't say this often. Not only is F1 like a really good and a really intense sport, but it also very is a bougie sport. It is really has a lot of money put into it. And what distinguishes this between what distinguishes Top Gun Maverick and this movie is it's not just the planes, and now you have planes and cars. It's not just the difference between those two, but it's also the feel of them. You know, it's it's grounded literally, but it just has a very sleekness to it. Like it's shot and it feels like a different world. Like it feels like everything like a commercial. Not really, not in a literal sense. Not in a way like it looks cheap like a commercial. It looks pristine. Everything's shot purposely. Every camera movement is intentional. That is what I want to say about it. You know, it's absolutely amazing. So go watch it, and I'll be touching on spoilers moving forward. So this is your spoiler warning. I can't recommend this enough to watch this. If you do happen to watch ahead and you haven't seen it, you know, I don't think the spoilers in this movie will lose your uh, will deprave any enjoyment that you might have from the movie. So but go watch it. I recommend it. Can't stress enough. I'll leave a timestamp as usual. If you want to skip ahead to my rating and the conclusion of my thoughts on the movie, go ahead. Here we go. So I guess now that we're in spoilers, the first thing that I want to do, and not that I have to, when I do these spoilers, it's not that I really had to talk about spoilers. It's just when I want to talk about specific parts of the movie, and they just happen to contain elements that people might not want revealed to them. So it's not like I'm touching. I have to have spoilers for every video. It's just there's some things I want to talk about in the movie that you know uh, that are spoilers. Unfortunately. But that being said, um, I thought watching when I was watching this, I thought um, Brad Pitt's character, Sonny Hayes. I thought it for a second. I thought he was gonna die, but because my only, I guess my only one of my only gripes with the movie is that I wanted a bit more clarity in exactly what was. Well, I mean, I guess it was pretty clear. I mean, not there wasn't any problems with it. What I'm talking about is Sonny, his characters. He is a racer who left the F1 racing game after a horrendous crash that almost cost him his life. Um, so he left the game, and essentially towards the end of the movie, it's revealed that those injuries mean life or death for him if he ever does anything like that ever again. Which kind of explains why he's kind of crossing a lot of things racing wise off his list, and why he wants to experience life to the fullest. Why he's a risk taker, because he doesn't take he does well he does he I mean he plays life pretty risk he's pretty risky. He's a gambler, as they say in the movie. Uh, um, but he wants to experience life in a way that tests his limits. He's not afraid of death anymore. And I thought he was gonna die, and I thought for a second he was gonna like lose it, and because there's a sequence towards the end of the movie where like you can feel like something's wrong, like he's like kind of his vision's fading and like there's pain coming back. I don't know what it is, and it just kind of just goes away. Again, that's not really a gripe, but that's just something that I found funny. I mean, I understood that there was something that part of that element of the movie was there to like instill fear and to raise the stakes and cause stress and like, oh my god, something might happen to him. But it kind of just goes away, like, oh, it's not a problem anymore. He's fine. um, or maybe I'm remembering things wrong, but that happened and I was like, what? I guess he's fine now. He's not in danger. I mean, the race is over. I mean, good thing. That is to say, um, I really like the way this movie ended. Again, uh, some people, might find it a bit bland and not as deep. But Top Gun Maverick was almost the same way. You'll have your predictability factors, and you'll be able to kind of tell how the movie ends, but it doesn't lose. You won't lose anything from it. You're still gonna enjoy it nonetheless, and a lot of it comes down to the acting. I really like the twists and turns, the way the relationship between Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce are on the team. They're working together. There's some pulls. There's some highs and there's some lows. Just when you think they're about to come back and then work together, especially after Joshua Pierce uh, injures himself in the crash. Uh, he understands that he made a mistake and he didn't listen to Sonny Hayes' advice. And he comes back and you think they're going to work together, But then like, nope, I'm in it for me now. I shouldn't have listened to you. And he kind of blames him, but at the same time, he lets people blame Sonny Hayes and not himself, even though he knew that it was his fault why he was injured. Um, so you have there's still some twists and turns in the small things, and this movie does a really good job at like not like walking you, babying you, and spoon feeding you how this sport is supposed to work and all the technicalities that come with it. And while some of it was lost on me, I did kind of understand. Okay, I know how this works. I understand what it is they're trying to do. This certain thing is going to get them a penalty car. This is going to slow down the other racers. This is an advantage for them. Well, I don't know exactly what's going on. I do understand what it's doing for them. I understand the benefit. So I really appreciate that in the movie, and it does make me feel like, oh, I know what's going on. Brad Pitt's character, Sonny Hayes, he knows the book. He knows exactly how to work all the technicalities and all the flags and all the penalties to work in their favor, which is part of the fun in watching the races in the film, which I really, really like. I caught myself smiling a lot of times because I was just kind of just staring up and watching. I was like, man, this is fun. I like it. I like breaking the rules in terms of in storylines. And again, um, don't let its uh, face value, throw you off. That's its. I think that's its charm. Like it knows what kind of story it is, and it's not gonna shy away from it. So all the small moments, and that's what sports movies are. Sports movies, the good ones, are just supposed to are supposed to be on the nose with those kind of things, and they're supposed to be uplifting, and they're supposed to be team dynamic. And when it comes to team dynamic, you have your inside jokes, you have your um, banter, you have your cliches, and you have your cheesy lines, and you have all these things are work very much like a team in a sport. You have your own language that you're all very familiar with, and sports movies have a language that we're already very familiar with. And if it was anything less than that, it wouldn't exactly be a sports movie. So all these things are very general, but they feel new every time because we love them every single time. Um, that sounds confusing, but you'll know it. If you like sports movies, you know what I'm talking about. This movie was highly entertaining, shot very well, and, you know, as good as it can be. It is absolutely phenomenal, and I really, really, really had a fun time with it. If I were to give it a score, I'd probably say a 4 out of 5. That's a solid score for me. It ain't the highest highs. I feel like to me, Top Gun Maverick. I hate comparing this, but people want to know what kind of movie this is, especially since they feel a little similar, like planes but realistic, cars but realistic, and a very real thing that happens in real life, which is F1 racing. I think 4 out of 5 is a really good, fair scale. The runtime could be a bit of a stretch and a bit long for some people. Um, there are some moments, you know, the entire movie is predictable, and that isn't a problem with me. I've been saying that multiple times throughout this video, um, but it is really engaging. The story is really well. A 4 out of 10, a 4 out of 5 movie is a very high rating for me. Yeah, I gave Top Gun Maverick I think a 4.5 out of 5, even though I consider that a perfect movie in terms of enjoyment and engagement. And this movie is, I find, equally engaging and enjoyable. Go watch this movie. Watch this movie. I can't stress enough. I feel like this will be. I hope this earns high numbers in the box office. Not only is it an original film somewhat, and I know it's working off of an actual IP, which is F1 Formula One racing, but it is original in a sense. So go support it. Go watch this. Brad Pitt does his Brad Pitt thing. He's a really good, awesome movie star. Uh, and everything about this movie I really enjoyed. My friend who I watched this with, who loves F1 racing and he's more into it than I am, he really liked it. Said it was realistic. Said it was really enjoyable. Whenever we were watching in theaters, there was a lot of F1 fans, and they were wearing their pit crew jerseys or whatever the apparel of the sport is. Um, it's absolutely great. It's an absolute dad film. If your dad likes movies, go take your dad with it. This should have been released on Father's Day. You know what I mean? This is but all this to say, um, it's a really fun movie. You don't have to know the sport. You don't have to be into cars. It's really fun to watch all of these people and watch the race go on the scene. I feel like the race cars and racing in general could be a movie and a story that can really fall in a slump. To me, racing is so, usually determined at the very start of the race, and there's not much that can be done to make it any interesting in a movie and in real life. But they find a way to do it in real life, and they certainly find a way to make it uh, a blast in the movie as well. So go watch it. F1, phenomenal movie. Had a great time, and I will look forward to more stuff that Joseph Kosinski do because practical all the way, IMAX all the way. I'm a huge fan of those things. And that's it. We have here at the Watch That Movie podcast and show. Um, I'm really looking forward to Fantastic Four First Steps. I'm really looking forward to Superman. I don't want to. I feel like I shouldn't say these things, but I will have an earlier access to a screening for Superman when that comes out. So you will be expecting an early, hopefully early video. At least it'll be on time with other videos and other content creators who'll be reviewing it. It'll be coming out around the same time as that too. So I'll be looking forward to that. Superman is, I'm hearing a lot of good things from the very little voices that I've heard watch it. I haven't heard anything. I just heard people are happy about it. Either way, I'm watching it. I'm really looking forward to it, as well as Fantastic Four First Steps. Again, I apologize for not putting out the videos that I promised before. Maybe I'll make an effort to release that towards the end of this week after this video comes out. But we'll see. My name is Edgar Palacios. This is Watch That Movie, and hope to see you around in the next video. So stay tuned. Bye bye.